Hi, welcome to Teen Pride Book Talks. This is the program on AADL TV, where each episode I take a few minutes to talk about a young adult book that is both representative of and inclusive of folks in the LGBTQIA plus community. My name is Lucy, and the book that I am going to be talking about today is called 6 Times We Almost Kissed and 1 Time We Did by Tess Sharpe. This is a dual point of view book that is sort of a slow burn romance, but it's also a coming of age story. It's kind of a enemies to friends to maybe more story. It's a story that talks about parenthood and parent and child relationships. It deals with friendship. It deals with grief. There's so much in this book. And it centers around these two really great characters, Penny and Tate. Penny and Tate's mothers are best friends, so they have had to spend a lot of time together for their entire lives, but they are constantly bickering. They're very different. They're always kind of at each other. At the beginning of this book, you find out that Tate's mother has been sick repeatedly, and this has been something that Tate has had to handle. She just lives alone with her mother. And you realize that Tate has really had to be an adult and kind of a caregiver in a way to her mother. And because Penny's mother is best friends with Tate's mother, she has agreed to be an organ donor and to give her part of her liver. And so they are sort of spending this time together, both getting ready for this surgery and then mentally preparing for it as well. And so Penny and Tate make a pact that during this time they will not bother the moms. They're just not going to try not to fight with each other, try not to argue with each other in front of the moms, and try not to push back in their own relationships with their mothers so that their moms can get through this little patch peacefully. It's difficult for them to show this united front. It's very hard for them to uphold this end of the bargain. And one of the ways that it's difficult, as the title may tell you, is that along with bickering, there are also moments where they almost kiss. So there is that enemies to friends to more, and also just sort of conflicted friendship where they fight, but they also have feelings for each other. So these girls are forced to spend a lot of time together. And one of the aspects of this book that's interesting to me is the coming of age piece for both girls. Tate has had to grow up maybe faster than usual because of her mom's illness. And for Penny, Penny has also had an unusual coming of age where she's had to grow up way too fast because Penny's father died tragically. And when that happened, Penny's mother sort of just abandoned Penny and sunk into her own grief. And Penny was taken care of by her grandmother. So Penny has had to go through grief and reconcile this grief on her own without another parent to help, though her grandmother was very much a parental figure at this time. She also had to deal with her mother's absence, and then this idea that she was abandoned by her mother, and that's still there, that piece of anger. So that's sort of blocking her coming of age or her self-discovery, but it's also a big part of why she has grown up so fast. So these two girls who are both united and fighting also have these unusual circumstances in their lives that are big, that are a lot to handle, but also in some ways make them more adult than maybe they really are. For Tate, she has always had to confront this fear of losing her mother. Her mother has been sick for so long, but then she also doesn't want to always have to be her mother's caregiver. Penny's mother is part of her life again, but is very restrictive. Penny's mom, Lottie, doesn't allow her in the water. She wouldn't allow her to go to therapy after her father's death. So these relationships, these mother-daughter relationships, are really a big and tangled part of this book that in some ways actually unite the girls and push them together. So neither of them are perfect characters. They both are flawed, and that is one of the strengths of this book, and it is these dual point of views. So we hear from both of them, and it goes back and forth. I really enjoy reading books like that because I think that you get more honest yet nuanced account of maybe what has happened between the characters, And also you realize that nobody ever knows the full story. Everybody has their own perceptions and their way of seeing things. And so you can get from Penny that like she's angry at Tate, but she's also feeling this buzz and these sparks, and you see Tate, taking care of Penny at certain times, and you realize that they do have feelings for each other, and they show them in different ways, and they feel them in different ways. So the title is creating immediate tension in this book, right? 6 times we almost kissed, and then in parentheses, and 1 time we did. So before you even open the book, you know that there are going to be all these moments where something almost happens. And how is that chemistry going to manifest? Is it chemistry? What is making it almost happen? What is the explanation around why they didn't kiss? And what situations are they in when they almost kiss? That tension almost creates this sort of thriller aspect. Like, that 1 time they did, and you keep wondering where and how that's going to appear. You almost can't stop reading because all of these almost kisses make you think, wait, is this it? Is this the kiss? Is this the time? I can't stop now. What if this is it? This tension and this almost kissing has really been happening for all of their teenage years together. They have these moms who are so close, and they've had to spend all this time together that they've really been in it. They've been in these feelings without ever talking about them, without ever bringing it up with one another. Like, why do we almost keep kissing? When they both know that it's happening, and we know it's happening, and we get to see both of their thinking behind it. They do move in together during this pre-op, post-op period, and so that really intensifies the whole experience of their relationship. In addition to being these dual point of views, this book also goes back in time, and Tess Sharpe, the author, does that in a really neat way because each one of those 6 almost kisses is jumping back into an earlier time period where we hear the story of this almost kiss. And so that gives you backstory, but it doesn't give you backstory in sort of this info dump or traditional chronological way. It sort of meets it out in bits and pieces, and I really liked that about this book. When I picked up 6 times we almost kissed and 1 time we did, I knew that there would be maybe some romance based on the title, and I expected it would be tense. The slow burn aspect of it was done really well and authentically. And then there's so much more in this book. There's all these different ways that people relate, and the trauma and the grief and how they deal with them, and also how you grow up and how you come to realize sometimes who it is that you need in your life. And maybe has that person actually been part of your life for longer than you think. So that is Penny and Tate's story in 6 times we almost kissed and 1 time we did by Tess Sharpe. It is a really good and different read, and I highly recommend it. Thank you for joining me.